You finish something you've been working toward for a while, and there's a small pause right after it's done. It's nothing big, just a moment where you expected something to register. Maybe a sense that it landed in a way that you can actually feel. And it does land, just lands evenly. You notice it for a second, almost like you're checking for a reaction that doesn't quite show up. And then your attention shifts before you really think about it. That kind of moment doesn't stay isolated. You start to notice it in other places too. You'll look at something that's been progressing for a while, something you've been putting real effort into, and you can see that it's working. And the feeling that comes with it is mostly just okay. There's nothing negative about it. It just doesn't carry much weight, and it doesn't stay with you very long. Sometimes it's even quieter than that. You'll be sitting in your life as a whole, just noticing it for just a minute. And there's a sense that things are good, they're stable. A lot of what's around you is what you were aiming at not that long ago. And you could see that clearly when you step back. And the way it feels is calm, and maybe even a little bit still. You thought it might feel more energizing than this, or that there would be more of a shift when things came together, but it just feels steady. You might get a message with good news in it, and then pause for a second after you read it. You understand what it means, you know what matters. You might even read it again without realizing you're doing it, like you're giving it another chance to land a little deeper. And whatever it was, it makes sense, you're grateful for it, but the feeling stays pretty level. Maybe you even respond with this small smile, and then your mind is already somewhere else before you really sit with it. There are moments where you reach something you had been aiming at for a while, and instead of sitting with it, you just kind of pass it by. Your mind logs it as done, and it shifts forward almost immediately, like it's already on to the next thing before anything else has time to catch up. If you slow that down and really look at it, it's almost strange how quickly it passes by. You thought you'd pause there longer. You thought it would feel like something you could sit in, even if it was just for a minute. After a while, you start to notice the pattern more clearly. Things that used to feel meaningful now just feel familiar. High points do still exist, but they don't really rise the way they used to. They come through, you recognize them, and then they settle quickly. The difference between moments feels softer than it did before. Nothing feels off. It just feels flatter than you expected. And it's hard to explain that without sounding like something's wrong, because from the outside, nothing really is wrong. At some point, a question starts to form underneath all that. You might not say it out loud, but it's there. You catch yourself wondering if something might have changed in you. Maybe you used to care more, or maybe the way you cared just felt different back then. There's a small uncertainty that shows up around whether your drive is the same as it used to be, or if something shifted without noticing when it happened. And it's not this loud thought, but it's persistent enough that you notice it when things get quiet. That thought doesn't always stay very long, but it comes back. And usually it's in those moments where nothing else is pressing, right? You might find yourself trying to remember what things used to feel like, just trying to compare the two. Like if you could line it up side by side, maybe you'd be able to see what changed. And it's hard to pin down. There isn't a clear before and a clear after. It's more like something gradually shifted and you didn't really see it happen in real time. So it turns into this quiet kind of checking. You notice your reactions or how quickly they pass, and you start wondering what that says about you. Whether this is just how things go over time, or if you miss something along the way without realizing it. You might even catch yourself paying attention to how you respond to things in the moment, almost like you're observing yourself to see if something feels different than it should. Then something else needs your attention, and you move on. Because most of your days don't really leave space for you to sit in that for very long. There's always something in front of you that needs to be handled. And you've gotten pretty good at handling things. There's a certain way you've learned to move through your days. So you respond to what's in front of you. You take care of those things that need attention. You stay consistent with the things that matter. You don't wait for a feeling to show up before you act. You just act, and the feeling is kind of secondary to that. And that way of operating works. It's a big part of why your life looks the way it does now. Over time, the way you move through things starts to level out. You don't get pulled around as much by what's happening. Situations come up, You deal with them, and then you move on without carrying much of it with you. It's just not something you think about. It just becomes how you operate. Things get handled, and then they're gone from your mind pretty quickly. And after a while, that starts to feel normal. The days all have a similar tone to them. And I don't mean that it's negative. It's just consistent in a way that wasn't always there before. You can go through a full day, take care of everything in front of you, and when you look back on it, nothing really stands out emotionally. It all just kind of sits in the same range. So you get used to functioning without needing a lot of emotional movement behind it. Things still matter. Things still, you still care about things. That hasn't gone anywhere. But the feeling side of it doesn't need to rise very high for you to keep showing up the way you do. You can stay steady without needing that extra push. And somewhere in that, your emotional range starts to narrow a little bit. It doesn't announce itself. You don't decide for it to happen. It just gradually becomes the baseline. And what used to feel like a high point settles into something more neutral, and neutral becomes familiar. You stop expecting these big swings, and over time, you actually stop looking for them too. There's a kind of steadiness to that. It's like a quiet consistency that lets you carry a lot without getting pulled around by it. You can stay focused, you can stay present, you can keep things moving without needing to ride the ups and downs that used to come with it. And there's also something you start to notice inside that steadiness, even if it's hard to put words to at first. When most of your life is built around staying level, the distance between your highs and your baseline gets smaller. The spikes start to soften. The swings don't reach as far in either direction. It's not something you chose directly. It's just what happens when that way of operating becomes normal over a long stretch of time. So the experience of your life starts to feel more even. You can still point to good things. You can still see progress. You can still recognize that what you're building matters. All that's still there. But the way it feels on the inside doesn't rise very far above the baseline that you've gotten to. You end up sitting in a life that makes sense. It's one that you chose, one that you built on, and one that you built on purpose. And it feels calm. It feels very steady. Maybe it feels a little quieter than you thought it would. And there's this question that stays somewhere in the background, not urgently, but just present enough that you notice it from time to time. You're not quite sure if something's missing or if this is just what it feels like now.